Hello, everyone. I am just trying to make sure that we get this rolling in my group here. There we go. It is showing that it is live. Good evening. Hello. How are you? How's everybody doing tonight? I am going to turn that down on my phone so I can make sure that I can focus on one screen here. Okay, so hi, my name is Lisa. I am a holistic gut practitioner, and myself and my son and all the things, we are going through a journey of overcoming anxiety and focus and attention and all of the things. And we came to a point where we were going to have to look at doing some type of a prescription medication. And with a lot of the side effects that go along with it, um, we opted to try and see if we can get a different route, a more natural route under our belt before we went full blown into that realm. So I just want to say that there is definitely nothing wrong with needing medication at all for any of these types of things. But it's definitely, there are some other things that you could do to support your system rather than just relying on the RX medication to suppress it. So that is where we come up with our title, Support Over Suppress. This is part one of probably going to be about 3 or 4 parts mini series, as I like to call it, but a natural way to support your mental health. So we're going to go through here. Um, Again, my name is Lisa. I am a holistic gut practitioner. I am a mom of 2 boys. My oldest, Declan, will be 10 next week, and my youngest, Grayson, is 5. I am a retired dental assistant. Sometimes I go back and I poke my nose into the field here and there, but I really like to help people. My passion was dental assisting. I did full mouth reconstruction, saw all the things, and now I kind of do a whole body approach to all those things. So, what are some points we can touch on to support attention and anxiety? Well, it's a broad range of things. But the first thing I like to focus on is nutrition. Now, with nutrition, you're going into the whole plate, your fruits, your veggies, your proteins, your carbs, your omega 3s, all of those great things that are supporting your entire system. We want to focus on our plates first. Um, and I'll dive a little bit more into the breakdown of that. The next thing I like to focus on is removing toxins from your home and your environment, whatever's around you. Um, we did a lot with removing all of the chemicals due to my hormone imbalance. And then going from there, it helped out with our younger son's eczema and our older son's allergies. So these types of things also have a connection to that gut brain connection. And some things in cleaners can have some type of a toxic hormone imbalance, endocrine disruptors. So we want to be really careful with what we're using to clean our home and be around our skin and things like that. So the next part of it is supporting. We really want to support where we can't eat everything in an entire day. So that was the biggest thing too, is like you can't eat fish every single day. You can't do all the things every single day. And there's things that are vitamins and minerals that need to be replenished in our systems that aren't either stored in our system or are not made by our body. So we have to be able to support it in those aspects as well. Which brings me to the macros and micros of our plate. Children and adults need an adequate amount of high quality macronutrients, which are those proteins and fats and carbs, and then the micronutrients, which are the vitamins and minerals and all the things that you find in fruits and vegetables and all those there. Which brings me to the difference of what food was then in 50, 60 years ago to what food is now. There was a landmark study that I found from the University of Texas that really showcased the US Department of Agriculture from 1950 to 1999. That's a huge difference. Um, it was in 43 different veggies and fruits. So that was just a really broad range of, where they're grown, how they're grown, things like that. So I really found it fascinating that, and I forgot my little note bag here. I found it really fascinating that there was such a decline in a lot of these different fruits and vegetables. A lot of these minerals and vitamins and stuff are needed to support our systems. So I really wanted to dig down into the proteins. Proteins help our energy. It's where we get a lot of our energy from. Helps our circadian rhythms. It helps to regulate when we feel full or when we feel like we need to take in more. So proteins over those that time periods from 1950 and 1999 went down 6%. I could not believe that. Um, Another big one is iron. 15% decline in iron, 15% decline in vitamin C. Um, Vitamin A is a big one too, but the biggest one I found, which is a lot to do with attention and focus and anxiety and things, is your vitamin B. Vitamin B is it helps to regulate your irritability, it helps with fatigue, helps to regulate that energy, those really, really highs and those really, really lows. We really want to make sure that those vitamin Bs are brought into our everyday diet because obviously from food, from you see from this chart here, is 38% decline. I could not believe it. With vitamin C is not made and it's not stored in the body. So those are things that we have to replenish on a daily basis. Um, the vitamin C helps to circulate the blood and the brain barrier. This way, those neurotransmitters really know how to fire and when to fire. And they could be either really, really active or really, really not active. So that's where that attention and hyperactivity and things like that come into play. So, the other part with vitamin C, you have to be very careful because if you are on any kind of RX medication, you have to be mindful with vitamin C because it can almost erase the medication. So we just want to be mindful of how much you're taking in. Um, with iron and zinc, the low iron levels are linked to sleep disturbances, and zinc has an influence on the natural production of melatonin. So if you have a kiddo who's really not getting as much rest as you would like, and you really want him or her to be able to sleep through the night, not waking up, if instead of supplementing the melatonin, which honestly I feel that once you start to supplement melatonin, it almost tells the body to almost stop producing the melatonin. So we want to get those vitamins and minerals in our bodies. That's going to help us say, hey, we need to start producing this melatonin on our own. So, where can we find this balance? Where can we get those proteins, those carbs, those healthy fats? This is kind of where I take a look at our meat sources, our fish sources, nuts, beans, dairies, grains, all of that good, healthy proteins there. Your carbs, you want to make sure they are in a low sugar, low glycemic index. We don't want to spike that sugar too much because then that's just going to rattle things a little bit more. But whole grains, beans, seeds, veggies, all those great things that have some really good carbs in them, high in fiber, um, healthy fats. We eat fish at least, well, we try to eat fish at least once a week. We have fish delivered to the house. But omega 3s are great for that brain health. Our brain is made up a lot of fat, and we need to replenish those fats to keep that energy going inside of our brain. So, cooking in olive oil. I actually cook in a lot of avocado oil too. We kind of mix it up depending on what we're cooking. Nuts, and as much as it gets a little bit of a bad rep, sunflower oil. If you get a really good clean source of sunflower oil, it's a really good way to get in omega 6s. And omega 6s do wonders for the brain. It does wonders for women's health. It does really good things. So we don't want to avoid those omega 6s completely. And sunflower oil is a good way to get that in there when you have a really good, credible source. But this is where I kind of nerd out a little bit. um, our food in the United States is definitely different than elsewhere. I had the luxury of going to Ireland for our honeymoon, and the food was definitely different. I felt better, to be honest with you. As you can see here, I just chose one example, and there. This is the UK versus US version of Quaker oatmeal instant. Eh, these are the big things you want to watch out for. My biggest thing is the food dyes. They're petroleum based, and we don't want the oils and nasty stuff in our systems. So when you go to look at these two types of things, you see versus the US and the UK, the US really doesn't have any real strawberries in there. It's kind of crazy when you look at the actual label. Let's see if I can kind of highlight it here. It says it's dehydrated apples. That's not a strawberry. Me personally, I would have stayed away from this because it says strawberries because I am allergic to strawberries. But obviously, I could have it if I really wanted to because there's no real strawberries in it. But in order to gain that strawberry flavor and color, you have to add in artificial strawberry flavor. And there's that red dye 40. You have to be very careful because it's super sneaky. Red dye 5 too is another one that can get snuck in there. But then you get into where they're just adding extra gums and citric acid and all the other things. But you look at the one for the UK, and there's real freeze dried raspberry pieces and real freeze dried strawberry pieces. Natural flavoring, that's a whole nother entity on its own. But when you get into where it's got very limited ingredients, is where you're going to be like, okay, that natural flavoring is really natural flavoring. You really want to be careful and take a look at these different labels and see what's really inside of the ingredients on some of these things. Another one is hidden sugars. Hidden sugars are crazy because that's gonna just jump that sugar spike, and those kids are just gonna go off the walls. It's not just candies and snacks and things like that. It could be hidden in things like example here is this tomato ketchup. So the hidden sugar names you want to look out for are the high fructose corn syrup, caramel color, fructose, dextrose, maltodextrin, rice sugar. Believe it or not, sushi rice, it has a lot of sugar in it as well. So you have to be kind of careful with those, even though I love sushi. Um, but if you look at those two labels, the tomato concentrate, if you go back and you just Google tomato concentrate, it'll tell you that the tomatoes are actually stripped of their water source in order to make it like a thicker consistency. That's why it's a tomato concentrate. Distilled vinegar, that's okay, but high fructose corn syrup and then corn syrup. So there's two different types of hidden sugars that are inside that one bottle of ketchup. If you look at the UK version again, it's just tomatoes, vinegar, salt, sugar, spices. That's it. Real sugar is okay in moderation. But hiding the two different types of sugars in just that one little thing is just mind boggling to me. So there are better options out there. Just turn it over and look at the labels. Things you want to avoid. I know we all love our coffee as moms. It's kind of our go-to juice. But caffeine and other stimulants, that really sets things off. When it comes to those mood swings, especially with kids, I have seen where parents are trying to give their kids caffeine in order to help them have that energy. But where can you get a natural energy source from? Vitamin B. So we want to make sure we're getting it on the plate, and we want to make sure if we can't get it on the plate, we're going to try and supplement where we can. Artificial sweeteners, this depletes those vitamin Bs. So if you're eating them in the plate and you're supplementing them, but then you go and you have something that's going to counteract that, you really want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and making sure that you're not depleting what you're putting in. Making sure your fish comes from a reputable source, clean source. Like I said, we have fish delivered to the house with Wild Alaskan. They're absolutely phenomenal, but just double check and make sure where you're getting your fish sources from. They can carry heavy metals and mercury, so we really want to be careful about those. And then there are some times where you can have it where it's actually a food sensitivity in the gut that's causing the disturbance in that brain gut connection, that brain chemistry. Um, I have noticed that dairy can set some things off, and gluten. Those are kind of the two highest I've seen just by working and talking with people. But, nuts and corn and soy and eggs. Now, soy gets a bad rep. It stinks. But the biggest thing with soy is you have to make sure that it is a clean source, non GMO, all of the things. It is never heated. That's a big, big part of it is when you have soy and it's in that heated process and then it goes into wherever you're putting it, that's where soy kind of depletes itself and causes such a bad issue. But I did find this kind of interesting too, is when you go and look This is from the CDC findings from 2016 to 2019. And this shows over the United States of how many children are affected by attention and hyperactivity and anxiety and depression and things like that. So this here, ages 3 to 5, which was pretty scary there, 265,000 children, that's 2% of the population, were already having some type of treatment for ADHD, anxiety, things like that. Ages 6 to 11, that's where my older son falls, 2.4 million kids. That's 10% of the population. Um, then you get that 3.3 million of those 12 to 17. And then it is more common to have it be known with boys versus girls, unfortunately. Boys are just more hyperactive. Girls can learn to suppress it. It's called almost like masking, where they're not really having all of these hyperactivity type of things going on. Where in part two, my girlfriend Jen is going to talk about how she feels that she had dealt with ADHD and anxiety and things when she was in middle school. And now that she's working through therapies and things, she's seeing the like, okay, this really was happening a long time ago. And I'm finally, working on things now. So um other scary part is about 3 out of 4 kids are being treated for some type of ADHD, some type of form, either if it's therapy, RX treatment, trying natural ways. There, 3 out of those 4 kids are really struggling, and we're trying to help them out. So the other big thing was toxins. Toxins are all around us. They're in our cleaning products. They're in everything. Um, I used to have a candle company that I worked with, and I have a feeling it kind of contributed to my hormone imbalance. So we really want to make sure that we're bringing in the clean things. My biggest thing with cleaning supplies is remember that clean doesn't have a smell. That was the biggest like aha moment I've ever had is that when you're using a good quality cleaning product that's actually going through and getting rid of germs and gross and all the things, they don't have a scent. You don't want to have fragrance. Natural fragrance is okay. If you're getting fragrance from like botanicals and essential oils and tea tree things and all the other stuff, that's different. But when you have it when it's a synthetic fragrance, that's when things really start to get out of whack. Um, your neurotoxins is a poison that affects our nervous system. Symptoms of that are headaches, OCD, behavioral problems, loss of memory, and cognitive function. Um, Endocrine disruptors, those are more for when you start to have your more neurotransmitter issues, serotonin, norepinephrine, and I dealt with hormone imbalance. So that's where those kinds of things came in. Carcinogens are chemicals that are known to cause cancer. So we want to stay away from all of those nasty ones. Um, Things around the house too, we want to make sure if you notice mold in your home, test the mold. Oh, almost missed it. Okay, I can't see who that is, but because I'm on this other screen. But oh, there's Dewana. Hi. Um, you want to be able to test for mold if you see it in your home anywhere. There are some things that say it's high moisture areas like your bathrooms, but really check around your windows too. If you live in an older home and you have draftier windows and they have the condensation on the inside of them, you really want to make sure that you get those windows tested too. Lead, I believe that was for homes that are built before 1978. Have to be very careful with lead-based paint. That was a big thing when we were looking for a home that we wanted to make sure it was built before then because I just did not want to deal with any kind of toxin like that. BPA is found in plastics, fragrances, synthetic ones. Like I said, if you're using essential oils from a reputable source, then I would be fine with fragrances, but when it's the synthetic stuff, that's not so good. Um, Antibacterial products, the big ones, like all of the big ones, just be very careful because there's a lot of things that are in there. Just take a look at the back that are just not okay. Here's where I have a little bit of an issue with the neurotoxin with fluoride. Coming from my dental background, I have a love-hate relationship with fluoride. If you are going to be 100% diligent on your brushing, your flossing, all of the things, you're going at it 2, 3 times a day, I say yes. Go ahead and try and use a fluoride-free toothpaste, fluoride-free everything. That's totally fine. But if you have any issues with dry mouth, sleeping, sleep apnea, your mouth is open when you're sleeping, the dryness is a like field day for bacteria. When we use fluoridated toothpaste, that really helps to impregnate the enamel of your teeth. So you really want to make sure that you're keeping those clean. I say stick with some type of fluoride there if you're not going to be like to the T 100% with your dental care. So that's where I have a little bit of a discrepancy on that. And then just watch for pesticides on your foods and things like that. I have a little part in my gut restoration program that is about the dirty dozen and the clean 15. You could Google it. There's certain fruits and vegetables that you can purchase organically, and some that you can go ahead and just say forget the organic and just buy them traditionally, conventionally to save a little bit. That's my budgeting tip for the day. You're welcome. Um, but the one thing that scared me the most was Lysol's active ingredient is that chloride, and it is a known cancer causing carcinogen. So that's where we really have to be careful. So, how can we support our systems? Nutrition support is where I like to focus most. I like to look at that plate, making sure it's well rounded, well balanced throughout the entire day, prioritizing proteins, leafy greens, fruits and vegetables, natural sugars, things like that. That life plate with all that balance is perfect. But then it comes to the fact that we cannot eat every single thing that we're supposed to eat in a day. It's just next to impossible. And with how much the food sources have been depleted over the last 50, 60 years, we want to make sure that we're getting in good sources of all those vitamins and minerals that we might be missing. So, really good proven multivitamin, great omega 3s, the EPA and DHA balance. B complex to regulate that energy throughout the day, getting in that vitamin C, and then probiotics to help that gut brain connection. Because when the gut is happy, the brain is going to be happy too. The other part is those non toxic swabs. Anything that's biodegradable, effective, fragrance free, and most of all, absolutely safe for you to use. So, who can we trust when we get to that point? I have chosen to partner with Shaklee. Shaklee is a brand that's been around since 1956. They actually created the first biodegradable cleaner, home cleaner, the Basic H, in 1961. So they're kind of the OG when it comes to cleaning, as we could put it. But I use that Basic H for a lot of different things, and I'll go into more of that later. There's 350 tests on every new botanical ingredient, more than 250 pesticide tests. That's beyond US pharmaceutical standards. Like, the testing with this is unreal. In 2000, Shaklee became the world's first climate neutral certified company, and over 100,000 quality tests per year to ensure that purity and potency. And we're in 125 published scientific presentations. So that's huge. That's the real deal. You know, you're investing in your health and in the things that are in your home with a company like this. So, where can you start? I like to go with whatever is easier for you. If you want to start and ditch all the toxins and get that out of your home and start making those healthy swaps there, awesome. I love the Get Clean products. They have the dishwasher granules, there's the hand soaps, there's the Basic H, which it's not shown in that kit, but there's 3 bottles and it gives you the concentrations on the bottle so you know how much to do. The window and mirror cleaner is literally like 3 drops of this stuff, and then you fill the rest of the bottle with water. You're already paying for water, so why are you going to pay for it twice with the stuff that's, at the store? Scour off paste, this little thing here, is one of my favorites. That one is great with cleaning my oven. I really get the nasty nitty gritties off of those kind of hard surfaces. Then we do have laundry detergent as well. So I mean, it's everything that's around us, and your clothes are on you all day long. So you're sleeping in it, you're wearing it, you're breathing it in. I mean, if it's on you, then you definitely want to make sure that you're cleaning that well. Um, we have a Nature Bright, which is kind of like OxyClean, so it helps oxidize the water and the detergent. Everything is super clean. With the my favorite is the fragrance-free 14-pound box of the powder detergent. That box lasts a year. It's like 35 bucks for a year of detergent. So that's good. The next part of it is working with me as your gut coach with personalized nutrition. And not only do we focus on the plate and what we're eating, focusing on balancing the gut, but we're also working on how to supplement. For the Meology for adults is amazing because it's a quiz that you take and it really digs down to that nitty gritty of your habits, your family history, your health history, all the things. So that helps us to kind of create that pathway of wellness that helps to fill those gaps. Um, the other one I really love is that Kids Meology. Now I know we were talking about ADHD, and a lot of it is about kids, but the cool thing with this is they get it personalized and it's fun. They get their name, they get to pick their icon. There's a little like trivia thing at the bottom every single day. Actually, I have it here. This is my son Grayson's. You could see that there. And every day there's something on here. So this one, he got to pick the camper icon because that's what we do. We go camping a lot. And this one, the fun fact was, did you know that you're taller in the morning than you are at night? The discs in your spine spread out while you sleep. So they learn something new each day they take their vitamins. It's super fun. There's 3 times the amount of EPA and DHA in these omega-3 jellies. That's really going to help that gut-brain connection, get that good brain chemistry going, and just start instilling those healthy habits in these kids at a really young age. So you can always check out everything on my website there. It's on the bottom of the screen. And then this is what we're going to do in part 2. So part 2, I'm going to have my girlfriend Jen come in and tell a little bit about her story. She was working with a lot of things naturally, and then she's still working on things outside of, going more on the RX side, but she's trying to wean off of it. So we're going to go into her story with she got diagnosed later in life, like I said earlier, fertility and postnatal depletion, adrenal fatigue. That's kind of when you're just almost in that fight or flight. That's a really big part of dealing with ADHD and anxiety and things like that. And then the routine for her with RX and a healthy lifestyle. So on another one we're going to talk about is part of my story with that gut brain connection, anxiety with a hormone imbalance. So our hormones and the different types, like different times of our cycle, really have a big influence on what's going on with us emotionally and how we're supposed to be able to help ourselves. So that's kind of what's next. If anybody has any questions on anything, feel free to shoot me a message, comment down below in the chat. That's totally fine. But I want to give you guys a little offer of something fun. This little bottle on here is Stress Relief Complex, and this was an ashwagandha and L-theanine combination that I take daily. My son takes it daily too. He takes one when we go have football and things like that. He takes another one before practice, so it really helps to kind of mellow him out a little bit. But ask me how to earn a bottle for free. So I hope you guys got something out of this tonight. And if you have any questions on anything, feel free to drop them below or send me a private message. And let's get together soon and stay tuned for part 2.